It's just, we'll give it a minute here. I know Corey just stepped out, so. And it's not 6 yet either. So. Yeah, yep, I see that. We'll wait for Corey to get back. I'm guessing he ran to the restroom real quick. There he is. All right, it is Monday, March 2nd, 6 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you roll call for us?
Yep. Steve Degelow.
Here.
Corey Miller.
Here.
Ian McDonald.
Here.
Lori Belargin.
Here.
Bruce Belargin.
Here.
Danny Erickson. Here. Matt Kukal.
Here. District mission, core values, protocol reminders, they're all listed on the agenda. Take a minute to review those, and when someone is ready, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Bruce, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lori, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2 is public comment. I did not receive any requests, Dr. Grambo,
None.
and I don't see anyone in the audience tonight, so we will move to item number 3, business department review.
All
Want to
right.
Start?
Yeah, and I'm gonna turn that right over to Rod. As you know, we're trying to be proactive with communicating out status with not only next year's budget, but this year's budget. So tonight, Rod will be presenting. This is really about our current fiscal year. It's not as much about the projections. And I'll turn it right over to Rod.
Alright, so last time I talked to you guys, we were talking about next year's budget, what that's gonna look like. Tonight, we're gonna talk about how we're doing so far this school year. So these are gonna be numbers through December 31st, which is the end of the second quarter for this school district year. So I'm gonna present some budget to actual numbers, and this is just going to be a summary here tonight. If you look at the board agenda, I've got a document attached there. It goes into much deeper detail if you want to take a look at that at some other time. So basically I'm going to talk about some expenditure analysis for the general fund and special education funds to kind of start out here. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. This is the end of the second quarter, so it ended on December 31st, and that correlates, just going to the next one. So second quarter correlates with 50% of the fiscal year being over, 45% of the school year.
Super.
Yeah, it's super. Yep, so that's good there. It also correlates with 34% of the support staff payroll being paid out and 50% of the payroll for year-round employees. So I just want to emphasize those last two numbers. I talked about the 34% and the 50%, because those numbers are going to be reflective in how the budget's progressing so far this year. So if you want to go.
Present.
I wonder if it's treating that just like one tab, because it's only sharing. I shouldn't.
Can you just hit the arrow button? Will it move?
Which arrow button?
Like on the keyboard?
Hey.
Thank you.
That's the next page, right?
Mm.
So if I look at the top graph here, that shows that we spent 35.3% of our budget as of December 31st. And if you compare it with the graph on the bottom, that's where we were at last year at this point, We spent 35.8% of the budget at that point last year, so very, very similar to where we were last year. So just looking at expenses from this perspective, we're right where we need to be. Go to this next one. So this one is looking at the expenses by function. Function tells us where the expenses are made in the district. If you look at the numbers highlighted in green, those are, you can kind of see those numbers relate to that 34% of the support staff and teacher payroll that I talked about. So those are all very much in line with where we need to be. And then towards the middle of the document, we got general administration, school building, and business administration. Those are year-round positions. So those are right around 50%, so that's exactly where we need to be with those. One of the expenses that kind of jumps out there is the insurance and judgments. That's 92% of the budget already. That's nothing to worry about. We pay the insurance premium right away at the beginning of the fiscal year. So that's not an issue at all. The other support services shows we're over by 27%. It's only a $3,600 difference, so it's not much of a difference. It's just the employee HSA, so that's nothing to worry about. And then we've got purchase services and down there in the bottom, we're only spent 3.1% of the budget. But those are expenses that are typically paid in the second half of the year, so it's nothing to be concerned with. Those will most likely come in line with the budget at the end of the year. And this here's another little summary that shows this year compared to last year, where we are, they all pretty much line up. This year is 35.6% versus 37% for last year. And 47, I think it's 43.4 to 41%. So they're pretty much all in line with where we need to be. The chart down below shows 25, 26 school year versus 24, 25. And you can see they're very much in line with where we were last year. So from this perspective, everything looks good as well. Go to the next one. And this is looking at expenditures by the object. An object tells us where the expenses are being made in the district. Once again, if we look at all the expenses that are highlighted in green, those are all very much in line, exactly where we need to be, so everything looks good there. One that jumps out again is the insurance at 92.6%, but like I explained earlier, that one is not an issue since everything gets paid up front. And next we'll take a closer look here. This is a few expenses that they tend to vary from year to year, so I want to take a closer look at some of these bigger expenses and show you where those are kind of falling into place. If you look at gas and oil for heat, we've only spent 15% of the budget so far, but those only include expenses through November. So once we get the colder months of December and January in there, that's most likely going to come closer to budget. When we look at this again next quarter, electricity is at 46.2% of the budget, so it's pretty much right in line. Electricity doesn't tend to fluctuate too much from month to month since we're not doing any heating with that. Snow removal is in a pretty good place. That's one of them that we were concerned with early in the year. We've only spent half of the budget so far this year, but one thing to consider is there's a couple invoices that were outstanding for December. Still needs to get added in here. So it's going to go up a little bit, but I think we're going to be pretty close to budget since we've had like a month with very little snow, so we're looking good there. And that was a big concern just like a month ago. Building and grounds, we've spent that's like 50% of the budget, so we're right in line there. The IT department and curriculum and assessment, those two are like at 21%, 19%. Those expenses tend to get paid at the second half of the year, so those will come more in line at the end of the year. Personal services, which is our legal fund, we've only spent less than 1% so far this year, so we're doing great. I know we've been talking to legal services a little bit more lately, so that's looking, it's probably going to jump up here in the third quarter as well. And sub wages, we're about $20,000 more than we were at this point last year. but as a percentage, at 36%, we're still looking pretty good. We did have a couple more teachers that were on maternity leave at the first part of the year, and that's where the budget increased, is with long-term subs covering for them. And if you want to go to the next one, Jess. So now we'll take a look at the special education budget. We're very much in line here again. We've spent 36.5% this year, which again correlates to the 34% that we paid out for school year staff salary. This compares with what we spent last year at 36.5%. And if you look at the graph, similar to the one I showed you for the general fund, comparing year to year, those are very much in line with where we need to be. So halfway through the fiscal year, we're in a great spot with our expenditures so far. So if you want to switch, we'll take a look at revenues right now. If we take a look at revenues during the first half of the year, revenues lag significantly behind our expenses, which is one of the reasons why we need to have a healthy fund balance, so we don't have to go to short-term borrowing. If you look at up here, we've only received 18.4% of our revenue so far for the first 6 months of the year. And that's after we received 40% of our state general aid. The big factor here is that as of December 31st, we haven't received any property tax income. We received most of that in January and February. So right now, as of right now today, we're in a good spot. Fortunately, we got a lot of money in January and February, which has really helped our bank balances. We are, if you compare year to year, the general fund on that very bottom number, we are about $350,000 less money we've taken in to this point as it compared to last year. And that's largely due to that we're not receiving as much in-state aid this year than we did last year. More of our money is coming from the local taxpayers' property taxes, which we would have received here in January and February. Then the little graph on the bottom just kind of shows you we've received that 18.4% of the total budget so far. I'm going to the next one, just a couple of graphs here that just display how much the expenses are different from the revenues. The top graph, the red line is the expenses that we pay out each month, and the green line is when we receive revenues. You can see it spikes in September and early December. That's when we received our aid payments from the state. Other than that, we received very little revenue for the first half of the year. And then the bottom graph is a kind of a month cumulative timeline. You can kind of see how much we're spending throughout the first half of the year and very little revenue. It's almost a $3 million difference during that 6 months, which is, like, again, that's why we need that larger fund balance to cover us during that time. And just to go to the next one, the last one there, it's to summarize. So at this point, midpoint of the year, there's no significant indicators in the district's expenditure data to point toward the likelihood of going over budget. Big picture is generally on budget so far. And I'd like to come back in April or early May and talk about where we're at the end of the third quarter and see how things look then. And that's all I have for you guys, if you have any questions.
Questions?
This is all through December?
Yes, through December 31st, yeah.
Looks good.
Corey, do you have something?
Yeah.
I know you want to ask something. Well, I can see it. I can see you thinking.
Yeah, so through December, that's was my main question too, because it looked like some of, the reporting isn't in for some of it, like it showed that it was missing, for IT, but you mentioned that some of it was, missing for not snow removal, for gas and oil, but it's not missing for the report, because you have it through December, right?
The expenses come in after December 31st, so those bills are getting paid in January. So they'll show up in the next quarter's expenses. Yep, so like IT and curriculum, those typically, they spend most of the money in the second half of the year. So
Right.
that's why the budget's looking like that. We haven't spent as much throughout the year at this point.
I have a question.
Yep.
Am I reading this right? Does it look like we spent, or last year in 24-25, it was, per legal, it was 18,944, but
Yes.
for 25-26, it looks like it's double that for estimates for the budget, it's 35.
Yep, that was, the budget is 35 for the entire year.
Oh, okay,
So as of last year, at this point, we had spent $18,000.
I see, okay. That wasn't for the whole year, that whole school year, 24-25, that's just, I get it now, okay, thank you.
Yeah, like Rod said, that will go up a little bit, but not a lot. We paid a few legal bills, but they're all relatively small.
Yes, when it comes to tracking, you know, where we can come out under, what's the process for that? You're watching certain things and then we're projecting, you know, okay, hopefully we don't have a terrible March snowfall, hopefully we don't have, you know, stuff like that. Is it for this next month's update, we'll know a lot more?
Yep, we'll know a lot more after the third quarter. Hopefully we don't have any unexpected big issues that come up. If we don't, I think we'll be in pretty good shape to stay in the budget, hopefully come under budget. We can address a few issues.
So the income from the county, you said January and February, that's when it's collected? When are we receiving most of those funds?
Yep, so with property taxes, as you're probably aware, when you pay your property taxes, some people pay them in December, some wait to pay them until in January. So the people that pay in December, we receive those payments in January.
Okay.
If you pay in January, then we receive them in February. And then we'll receive about another third of the payment in August. Everybody pays their
Okay.
rest of the taxes in July.
So that is all accounted for now?
We receive about 2/3 of the property taxes in January and February.
Okay.
But they don't show up in these numbers here because we didn't receive those by December 31st.
All right. And do you know, I mean, based on evaluations and also the tax bills, I mean, you're able to understand exactly what you're supposed to receive?
Yes.
Or is it, it's not a mystery, right?
It's not a mystery. yet.
Okay, got it.
Yep, it's the amount that you guys approved at the October meeting was a specific dollar amount.
Okay. All right.
As you know that based on tax roll.
Yes,
As long as everybody pays.
yes.
That's the only reason it would change, or it would change.
Right.
Ian, any questions?
Yeah, just kind of a clarification. So the shift in state funding with property taxes, that's what's causing that about 3% discrepancy between last year and this year?
Yes, exactly. Yep, since we're receiving more money from the property taxpayers, since we don't receive any of the property taxes in the first half of the year, and the state aid is down, we've received most of our money from state aid in the first half of the year. So that's where the difference is.
And that's kind of going to speak to the importance of keeping a healthy fund balance. You
Exactly.
mentioned that already.
Yes.
Anything else?
I appreciate the report because it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, you can visualize everything versus years past, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 4, superintendent report.
All right, we'll jump right to B, nothing to talk about in A. So CISA 11 shared service contract. So in Wisconsin, the way we collaborate among districts is through CISAs. And we talk about CISA a lot because we engage in different professional learning opportunities and different opportunities to collaborate. And the way CISAs are funded, there is some state money that goes to them, but the majority of the way they're funded is through their shared service contract, what we pay to access their services. So if we open up that document, the first thing is the letter, and you can read through that. It kind of explains from CISA's perspective how this works, but the next page that was scanned in there, This is the actual contractor menu that we signed off on. Those things that are highlighted in yellow, those are things that we engaged in the past. But if we start at the very top, those first top 3 lines, those are fixed. There's no choice there, we don't get to sign on, that's why you'll see there's no purchase, renew, or drop column. That's just to fund the mechanism. We rely on CISA for quite a bit, and CISA has become, I think, CISAs in general have become even more critical as there's been more, things have tightened up at the state level, there's more requirements, and CISAs, the folks at CISA help us navigate all that stuff that's happening at the state level. They go in, they partner at the state level, they get a high level of expertise, and then we get to rely on that expertise. But then there's other specific things that they do as well. So skipping to the very end, we're continuing to contract with everything that we did in the past, adding nothing. We stopped one service, which was some individual contract days. We have the ability to partner with CISA through a grant that actually gave us quite a bit of individual consultation, and they've been great helping us work with our PLC teams and supporting them. So, but if we just talk about the things that we will continue. So first of all, the comprehensive consulting and networking services, that's the big one. That drives the ability for us to attend the general things that CISA does. And there's a lot of different things. So Jessie has a group that she goes to that focuses on pupil services. Sarah has a group that she attends that focuses on curriculum instruction assessment. I have a group that I go to called the PAC. So those are our opportunities to collaborate regionally, and the reality is, regardless of the size of the district, we have a lot of common interest and common challenges that used to be different. That used to be that if you were a much larger district, you really didn't have to partner with CISA that much because you had a lot of the internal resources to do these sorts of things. The way things are happening at the state level, it's pretty necessary, I would say, for all districts to partner, and it's very valuable.
And with that, Dave, isn't there like the nurses network, the school resource
Yes.
officer network?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, there's
It's
a,
like for every principal, and it's more than just you're that. There's
yeah,
all the way
absolutely.
through.
Yep, yeah, so I would say everyone on our leadership team has an opportunity to partner at a certain level with CISA. And then I'll point out a couple other ones. So there's the Healthy, Safe, and Respectful Schools. That's about a $3,000 charge. There's a lot of service we get, whether we're talking about our nursing program, we're also talking about some behavior management stuff. There's a lot that comes out of that one. There's this science math called Scimatech. That allows us to have our science and math and technology teachers go to CISA and learn, so it's not just for leaders and administrators. Teachers have access to what CISA has to offer as well. And then we have the Title I, II, and III. This is well-spent money. So Title I, II, and III, those are the federal grants. A lot of, maybe not a lot, but there's considerable funds anyway that come through these grants to support different programs. Most of them Sarah manages. It would take a ton of her time if she had to do the work that CISA helps. They have experts, they know how to run the reports, so they help out manage that process of managing the federal grants, and they do that with a percentage. Other than the Title III, that's paid for with a consortium grant, so that doesn't cost us anything. And then we have, in the next page, these are some services that we don't have enough of a need to hire someone to do these jobs. They're very specific needs that we have students that have high needs. We can partner with CISA and they can serve 11, 12, 15, 20 districts with one person when you have like a student that has a certain level of need that we're legally obligated to provide. So that's for the most part that next page. So that is a quick look at what CISA has to offer. We appreciate them greatly. They're great partners and they support all districts in Wisconsin quite a bit. We're part of CISA 11, and Lori, you probably know how many districts, do you know how many districts are in CISA 11?
I think 31 or 32.
Okay, so and that's a relatively large CISA in terms of the number of districts. Each one operates a little bit differently. Some CISAs have sort of a niche market that they can do, so you can partner, like we don't only partner with CISA 11, there are certain services that CISA 11 does not offer, and then we'll partner with another CISA, so you can do that as well. So very efficient way to get the support we need.
I have a couple questions. Does CISA follow, is it regionally, or do they follow like student enrollment
It's
size?
regional.
It's
Yeah,
just- it's
yeah, it's
regional.
completely regional, yeah. Our headquarters is in Turtle Lake, so that's sort of central for the region. Go all the way down to, I'm trying to think of Pepin, I think would be the furthest south. And then north up, like Barron is in ours, so it's a relatively sizable region.
And then I don't see, I mean, I think just make sure I don't miss it. Is there anything on here that is new?
No.
So everything is just a renewal
Everything is a renewal except one drop.
or a drop?
Yep,
Okay, nothing additional.
nothing additional.
Those consulting services, was that the consulting services that we were getting in the math department, or no?
I don't know, because that was last year, so I'm not sure what that was all about. We have one day that actually has not been used yet, that Sarah's still planning on how that day will be used. But through an assessment consortium, we've had a lot of individual support from CISA, which has been great, but we didn't have to contract out for additional days.
Okay, thanks.
Does anybody have any other questions at all about this?
Is this, where some of the professional development comes through too? Is
Yes.
That counts for some of these things?
Yeah, there's, CISA offers a lot of different professional learning. It's always under those umbrellas, like maybe it's for science tech, maybe it's specifically for superintendents, maybe it's for nurses, but yeah, there's, when you belong to a consortium that doesn't cover the full expense, it's just a greatly reduced expense. So like we send people to CISA, it costs us very little because we're part of the consortium already.
Got it, thanks.
Is that part of, like, I think last week, Carrie Ferguson's class went there for some science Olympics or something? I don't remember what their whole group went up there, I don't know, that's part of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. I know, I heard that she had gone up there, but I don't know what that came out of.
Okay.
Because sometimes they'll just use that space. Other people can like say we're gonna offer something in that space, so sometimes it's sort of outside of the CISA umbrella, but I'm not sure about that one specifically.
Ian, any questions?
No, I think you got it, thank you.
Anything else from the room?
I mean, it sounds all positive, it's one of those just big, it's a big thing, right? Like, you get so much from there. How do we think about it in terms of a continuous improvement standpoint of, you know, in our overall strategy,
Mhm.
how do we change our involvement with CISA, because it's so big?
Yeah.
To have it serve our goals.
It's a good question, because the thing with CISAs is they have a lot of mandates, stuff they just have to cover. And as I said, what happens at DPI often is filtered through the CISA. So like there's something that needs to be implemented. I'll use an example, educator effectiveness as an example, the way we evaluate teachers. That a lot of that support was pushed through CISAs. And that was a massive mandate. Every school, every teacher, anyone that worked in a school was impacted by that. So that absorbed a lot of their time. And that has continued. So the director at CISA has helped with that process. So he reaches out to us and says, what's on your agenda? What do you have on your roadmap? And how can we partner with you? So they reach out to say, like, these are things of interest. A really good example of that is artificial intelligence. They're doing a lot of work around AI because they know it's affecting us all. We all need to be prepared. We all need to learn so we don't have it get ahead of us and we can capitalize on it as best we can. That sort of process helps. But the other thing, and probably more importantly, is it frees us up to do the innovative work we need to do here because we're not chasing the mandates. They help us out so much with that. So when we're looking at like our goal structure, not that these things aren't supported by CISA, we'll talk about these in a little bit, but the fact that we don't have to chase all the mandates, we have a lot of support to free us up to do the important work we need to do on site. All right, any other questions? All right. Next, we have state legislative updates. So Danny asked a really good question a couple weeks ago. Just asked, okay, can we add this to our agenda and periodically do legislative updates so we know what's happening in Madison and how that will impact us here. So This is the first one that we're doing, and I thought, let's start first with what are the current things that we're operating under that are new this year. So everything in this document represents new legislation that impacts us to a certain degree. Some really, really directly, others a little indirectly, and one humorously. So just wait for that. It's not that funny, so don't get your hopes up. This is one of those things like I say, oh, policies, that's super fun, and y'all look at me like, other than Danny and Lori, they get it. All right, so broken up, first category is academic and organizational changes. Act 80, this is the Academic Excellence Scholarship. You might remember you acted on this just a couple board meetings ago, and this was to declare the number of scholarships available through the state academic excellence. So they made some changes in the way that operates. It really didn't impact us that much other than we had that agenda item that now is done. So check, check, we've satisfied Act 80. Act 79, I really like this one. So youth memberships and organizations. So beginning next year, we can offer specific times for certain organizations to have access to our facilities and our schools. This is important because you have to be careful with what organizations you allow access in your schools, because if you grant open access, you become what's called an open forum, and then we have very little say over who accesses our schools, and that can put us in an untenable situation where we're perhaps allowing a group access that doesn't match the values of our community. But what this does says, okay, there's some really universally solid groups that we want to grant access to. Scouts already had a carve-out legally. This expands that carve-out to other groups that would offer great services. Big Brothers Big Sisters is right there on the list, and they can offer some really great support in mentoring students that maybe need a little bit more support. We got FFA on there, super excited, still working on getting it's gonna be an ag club first. We can't have FFA until we have a ag certified teacher, but having an agriculture club, working toward FFA, this grants a little more access to them. So all good there. Act 42, we've talked about this one quite a bit, and we will be acting on this at some point in the spring. This was the cell phone policy, cell phone law, that we have to have a policy on place that limits cell phone use. As I've mentioned with this one, we're already compliant with this law. If we didn't change anything, we're already compliant, but we are gonna take that next step, and everyone I think is on board. We've talked about it here several times and talked about it with the admin team, and teachers have definitely been supportive of the idea of limiting access even more at the high school, and the high school operate more like the middle school does, where during the school day in general, that access to devices is not allowed. And I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's gonna have a significant impact. When you walk through the high school and you see so many kids on devices during these times where they have less structured time, it's sad, because this would be a time when they can collaborate, work together differently. One of the best things I ever saw was kids, no devices out, they had some open time, and they're playing a board game, like a pretty intellectual, deep board game. Super cool to see, like put the phones down and play a game. So looking forward to that, and we will be bringing our recommendation sometime in the spring.
Mind if I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So what does that look like at the beginning of the day? What happens to the phones? And
So like if they don't, yeah, that's a really good question. We don't have all the answers. Right now, they've got like the pockets in the classrooms where kids will put their phone in the pocket in the classroom and hold them there. In many of the classrooms, once we have the policy set, then we're gonna have to do like the administrative procedures. What does this look like? As an example, if a student breaks the rule, what does that look like? You take the phone on the first, or do they get a detention on the first offense? Is there a warning? All that stuff we'll need to work through after we have the policy decided.
okay.
Yep, you bet. All right, the next one, now we're going into safety and conduct. First one, Act 57. We've talked about this one a couple times really early in the year. This is that we need to, if there is any suspicion, viable suspicion of sexual misconduct with an adult or a staff member, that it needs to be reported very immediately. It shrinks the flexibility of when that needs to be reported. This absolutely makes sense, so that's be no issues being completely compliant with that. Next one, this is also a important thing. You know that with technology and with AI, it's easy to make fake images. This addresses the use of fake images that can be used like in sextortion or other situations that can put kids or staff members in a really horrible situation. So now it creates, there's criminal connection to that sort of behavior, which is good. That puts us in a much better position to enforce that if that should ever happen. Next one is about safety plans for minors in crisis. This is a partnership sort of thing with Department of Health Services, and they'll be creating a portal for sharing information and making sure that our kids are safe and that we have safety plans in place that create a collaborative sort of structure between Department of Health Services. Moving on, administrative and budgetary. So started out, actually I think it's in a different order now than the one, so I think the first one we have on there is 15, is that correct? I'm on a printed version, okay, 15. This is just the fact that the budget process is underway. You know, we talked about that $325 per pupil, that's been something that's been debated back and forth. But this is the entire, like the big law that funds schools. So there's nothing new about that other than like the specifics in the law, but there's always that budget law that comes through at the executive level. And then this one's good for Ian, he's virtual, but personal information for election officials, it essentially protects their personal information. So as you fill out forms and such, Ian's information as clerk isn't going to be spread and broadcast everywhere. And now for the one you've all been waiting for. It is now legally permissible to use a font other than Arial on our legal notices. We didn't know it wasn't legally permissible until it became legally permissible. So hopefully we didn't break the law and have like Times New Roman out there or something, but apparently that is all good now. Last thing on there, I've got the schedule for updates moving forward. I tried to identify opportunities where there's sort of a natural time to talk about legislative happenings. So the first one is August after a legal conference. So I attend a legal conference, I'll be doing that annually. It's a great conference because we have school attorneys from across the state providing updates on here's what's happening in the world of school law. And you get it like right from the experts, and I can bring that back and then summarize in August so we can hear what's happening. Next one was in December. When we're talking about the WASB resolutions, I think we can expand that conversation a little bit more and make sure that our positions are clear. So if we do want to get engaged in more advocacy, we have that ability to do that. And then February after the convention, again, a lot of good legal updates at the state convention. And then finally May, and that would be updates on actions and decisions. Now, there is no time when, like, the budget or the bill creation process is scheduled. But when they're acted on and potentially signed into law or vetoed, that runs all throughout the year. So we'll have to continually have these conversations. One that I did not put on here, but important to know that there's a lot of conversation happening and a lot of debate happening on addressing the budget surplus at the state level and how that budget surplus may end up impacting schools. I think no matter what, it will be good news. We just don't know what that will look like. I think both sides of the aisle understand that that surplus could benefit schools and that would make sense. How that looks, how that ends up, we'll wait and see, but hopeful that we'll see some relief to our budget through that process. All right, any questions on the legislative update?
I'll just say I appreciate Danny bringing this up. I think this is great. First time we really kind of dove into this, so this is great to hear from you and how it may or may not impact us. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. And know also that I'm not an expert on any of this, so I'll share what I know, but also when we have these updates, we can engage in open conversation about what we're hearing and make sure that we're all learning with one another. All right, the last thing I have on there is a leadership cohort update. I feel bad that it's taken this long for us to get the leadership cohort up and running, but had a really great meeting actually in this space last week. So leadership cohort was something that was put together last year, and it is a group of engaged family members and community members that provide input into what we're doing in our program. The crew that we brought in is the same group that was established last year already. We invited them all, and then I asked, if you're not interested in continuing, please let me know. Gave it like another, like, hey, please let me know. A lot of people reached out and said they are not interested or are interested. But those that didn't respond after 2 opportunities and gave them a date, then we took them off the list and understand that they don't want to participate anymore, which is fine. It could be for any number of reasons. But it was a really productive, solid meeting. These giant posters that are up around the room, first of all, they're way bigger than I intended. When the person that prints the poster said, how big do you want them? I said, well, big, because we're gonna engage with them. I didn't realize how big they could become. So they're giant. And they're really taped up there. It took quite some effort. They fell down a couple times. But this was one of the activities we did. So these are the goals that you approved earlier in the year. And we asked a couple questions of the team. They went what we call a carousel walk. They went in groups from goal to goal. And they asked some questions like, 1, what's something on this goal or related to this goal that you think we should stop? Something you think we should start that's not on there, or something that we absolutely should continue? They also commented on barriers. What are the barriers we have to achieving these goals? And then what are the big dreams? What are the things that we would like to see as part of our goal process that we don't see represented here right now? That was reactive, right? We already set the goals, they've already been established. We want to make this more proactive, where they're providing input that helps inform the goal setting process, and that's where we'll go next with this. So that was one of the things that we did as a group. The other thing that we did is we talked about sort of the mission of the team. What do we want to accomplish as a group? And they set the stage really well last year with sort of establishing a common understanding of this is how the district functions. This is what it looks like to run a school district. Now what we want to do with it is take that to the next level and get honest input and real dialogue. So you remember I've talked about the idea of curiosity quite a bit, and I opened the school year with the concept of curiosity. So we presented the concept of curiosity and curious groups. What does it mean to be a curious group? And then did some mission work around there. One of the things that, one of the aspects or characteristics of a curious group is that dissenting opinions aren't considered attacks, they're considered data points. So that's what we're trying to grow to. So if we hear someone that maybe doesn't like what we're doing, that's okay, that's a data point. It's also not a reason to think that the world is on fire, because we don't know how big of an issue that is, but it is a data point, we need to take it seriously. So we want, right, the group that we had was fantastic. They were super engaged, they did a great job. I would describe probably most of them as very, very supportive of the school district, which is awesome. I obviously love to hang out with people that are super supportive of the school district, but we also know there are people out there that have some serious questions about how we function. We want their voices too. So what I told the admin team and I told this group, and I would tell you the same thing, that if you're out in the community and you're chatting with someone that has real interest in what's going on here and they're willing to talk about it, have them email us, and then we can have them join the group if they're interested. We want dissenting opinions. That makes us better. And not because we want to convince them that what we're doing is right. There might be some of that. Sometimes if you get a peek behind the curtain, you get a better understanding, but also they have a valid perspective that will help us grow. So we want to make sure we have diverse opinions around the table and not just people that think that what we're doing is great. Now, having said that, the folks that were there that are supportive still gave really constructive feedback, and they had things that they thought weren't quite right, but we want to make sure that we're really casting a wide enough net that we can have those deep conversations that will ultimately get us in a much better position. Last thing about this group, they will also be the crew that will preview things that we're doing. As an example, curricular resources. So when we go through the curriculum process, we'll be making recommendations, but before those recommendations come to you, they will go through this group. So you know that a group of parents had an opportunity to provide meaningful feedback on what we're suggesting be the next iteration of whatever programs we bring forward for our kids. I think that will help everyone a lot, and it's not just, okay, you've given the thumbs up. We would send resources home, give them Post-it notes, jot down where your concerns are so we can talk about that. Sarah's doing great work. Her goal is right over here, and if you remember, her third goal was on establishing a really solid curriculum improvement process, which is a heavy lift. She's doing great work. on developing a process, because when people think of curriculum, they think of adoption. They think of like buying the resource and going, okay, there we go, now let's run this for 6 years. It's an ongoing process, and one of the things we'll build into that process is that feedback from this group to make sure that that's represented in anything we bring forward. So big thanks to the leadership cohort, and again, looking to grow and expand. We'll be meeting monthly now from this point forward with that group.
Through the summer as well.
Probably not in the summer, we'll probably go through May and then take that summer off. Yeah.
Any questions?
Number or percentage of parents in that group?
It is, I can tell you actually, I'll go to the invitation. It is primarily, we have teachers involved, but the teachers are parents in the district for the most part. But we want it to be vast majority non-staff members, obviously, because we have an opportunity to talk to our folks regularly. So leadership cohort, 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16, 17. 18 are not associated directly with the school district other than through their parent lens.
I think Corey's question was how many were parents, right? Are 100% of the people on the committee parents?
100% of the people on the committee are parents, yes.
So no, just community members?
No, just community members, yeah. Yep, it's, yeah, all parents, and we talked about that, we're not sure which way we wanna go in that. That might be, if we want a broader community forum, that might be a different group, because we're really trying to focus on the student experience. What we wanna do is improve the student experience, and if they're a community member without that connection, they might not have that perspective that will help us do that. Doesn't mean that their voice isn't important, but that would likely be a different forum.
Yeah. This may be a broader question to the board members too, but like, I love that there's a path there if you are talking with, community members, parents, whatever, and you can say, hey, email David, we'd love to have your input on that. I get, maybe it's just me, I don't know, unapproachable, but I get, people are often afraid to do that.
Yeah.
You know, would you recommend that if we had a conversation like, this is a useful nugget, like, email you without that person's name, just be like, hey, this is, you know, something that I know is a theme out there that I've heard a few times. I'm curious what the cohort thinks about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we could, at any time, if there's a topic that you think would be valuable to bring to that team, let me know. Certainly, we can explore that. Our goal is, not just through this, but through many of the things that we are rolling out this year, is to break that barrier down. So people feel more comfortable. And it's not just external people. We're doing employee listening sessions right now. Rod, Rochelle, and I are meeting with each employment group to talk about overall compensation, benefits, wages and salaries, and then fringe stuff, and then the overall work experience, to get to know, like, what is it that we can do to make this work experience better, knowing that there are limitations, but we want to have an honest conversation about that. And we break them up into employment groups because we know that their interests can be unique. Whether you're a special education para, we met with health aides today. They have a very specific demanding job. There's only a couple of them, but it's a unique job. And in this conversation, a few folks have said, well, people are afraid to come because if they share what they're not happy with, they're afraid that that would look bad. It's the opposite. We need to have those conversations, so we're providing forums. And hopefully by doing that, whether it's leadership cohort, these listening sessions, or any of the other numbers of things we do, we start to break that down so people know, no, we need to hear from you, because whether it's a parent, a student, a staff member, community member, we want their experience to be positive.
Yeah, and I love the way you described that, you know, differing opinions are just good data points, and to be more accepting of them is constructive, so appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. All right.
Anything else for him? Ian, anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Moving on, next item is number 5, the consent agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion for any or all of these?
Make a motion to approve 5A, 1 and 2, and B1.
Motion by Bruce, is there a second? Second by Danny, any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6, general information. Our next meeting is March 16th. That's a regular session meeting. There is a listening session 30 minutes prior. And then the big one is the spring election. There are 2 seats that are up on our board. That election is Tuesday, April 7th. There is a link on the agenda and on the website for candidate Q&As. Item number 7 is district celebrations. Ian, can I start with you?
certainly can. So by congratulating our boys hockey, moving to state. Thank you, Rod and Dave, for all your work and presentations tonight. I guess I'll bring up, I'm seeing a lot of our school activities on my social media feeds, and it's great to see. A lot of good things happening.
Great, thanks. Steve?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is if there's any families that are looking for a different school district, neighboring districts, they should check out Somerset.
Thanks. Corey?
Yeah, like the last conversation, there's a lot of just good, I get asked a lot of good questions about Somerset, and it's fun to share a lot of the good stuff going on and generate good conversations there. And the activity last week in elementary with using AI to create animals was particularly unique and new, fresh, and appreciated that.
Lori?
The play, holy mackerel, I hope you were able to go to the play in our fabulous auditorium and the job that those kids did. We have such talented kids, and there was such a huge number of our students participating in the play, and our staff who are involved in directing it and putting it all together. It was just incredible. If you didn't get to go, you missed something big. And I hope you make an effort to go the next time because it was really great. Spring break is next week, so I am wishing all of our staff members some rest and relaxation with their families. And in addition to the hockey team going to state, our robotics team is going to state. We're ending our winter activities here, rolling to an end, and the spring thing will be starting. I think middle school track starts April 2nd. Oh, I thought, I heard it was starting sooner. Maybe not. Is high school starting sooner? Okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it, thanks.
Bruce?
We had the state wrestling tournament that we had, I think I said last time, Cora Bigley and Vinnie Peterson went, and along with that, Cora Bigley and Maddie Simmet also made it. They were down in Madison over the weekend. And then just think Allie Peterson, the head coach, so we went down over the weekend, there was all the wrestlers on the team found a way or brought down with coaches and all the supervisors to help have them there all weekend long, just to be a part of it and witness it and support and cheer. And it was just cool to see them all interacting with each other, and then also just kind of free on your own, and they all acted, you know, like very proud of, or make Somerset proud by the way they interacted with everyone else and acted in the Kohl Center and in the hotel and everything. So sometimes 12 kids getting around could be a little crazy, but they were great from everything I saw. So thanks for making that happen.
I was just gonna build off of that too and just say that, I know a few of the kids down there even went to the Capitol and were visiting and touring and speaking with legislators, so I thought that was cool. That was really cool, and thank you to Jeff Johnson. He is resigning from being the head coach for middle school wrestling, so we will miss him. He's does such a good job with that.
Yes. I'll just echo what Lori said about the play. I was there. It was opening night. I don't even know what night that was now. They all run together, but what Friday night. They happened to sit right next to him, so it was great. I remember just not that many years ago, the last performance I went to in the multi-purpose room, and just what a facility. fantastic for those kids that enjoy that. I know the Children's Theater is bringing a whole production here in a few weeks, so it'd be great to see. Anybody that wants to take part, jump in. So it was good. That's all I've got. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Bruce. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Corey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, means adjourned at 6:54.
Thanks.
You need help?
Yeah.
Is this you right here?
Yeah, it's,